أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. We discussed verse number 52 in our last session. وَيَوْمَ يَقُولُ نَادُوا شُرَكَائِيَ الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُمْ فَدَعَوْهُمْ فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُمْ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَوْبِقًا. The day when we tell them, call your partners that you thought, you imagined, that were my partners, that you associated them with me, and they call them, and they do not answer them, and we put a place of a distance. And this distance we discussed last time, that it's either a place of destruction or something which would cut all relations between them and those whom they associated with God. جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَوْبِقًا. Now, the following verse talks about when the reality of certain things would become apparent for them. وَرَأَى الْمُجْرِمُونَ النَّارِ فَظَنُّوا أنهم مواقعوها ولم يجدوا عنها مصرفا. And the guilty will see the fire, and they know for sure that they will fall into it, and they will not find any means to circumvent it. You know, Day of Judgment has many different stages. Each stage has its special unveiling for people. Now, it's either unveiling from God's beauty for the believers, or unveiling the ugliness of the action of the people for them. The reality of things. On the Day of Judgment, Allah, as He says, يُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, will inform you what you used to do. Now, this informing, of course, doesn't mean that we don't know and He's reporting to us. No. He shows to us the deeper aspect of what we used to do. We discussed this before, that whatever we do here, whatever we say here, whatever we intend here, has a form in the imaginal world, in Barzakh, has a form in the higher world, which is Day of Resurrection, and then in paradise and in hell. Now, when Allah says we inform you what you used to do, means that we show you those higher realities. We show you those deeper aspects of what you used to do, either good or bad. And then when we see those realities, certain other things would appear to us. So this issue of Ra'al Mujrimun an-Nar, the guilty, the Mujrimun, and this is very interesting. It doesn't talk about Kafirun or Mushrikun. It's Mujrimun. Mujrimun is more general. Even the believers who were Muslimun, for example, but they were guilty. They were criminals. And they had not been purified up to this stage, which they have come. They will see the fire. Now, they will see the fire. They didn't see this before this stage. Why they see it? Because now they have come to a stage where the reality of their being would somehow allow them to see that fire. We have this in many other verses of the Quran, for example. فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى, when that great catastrophe comes, يَوْمَ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى, the day when man remembers what he has done. Now, the day when man remembers what he has done means in a new form, of course, because already we are given our books. Already we know, but we see them in a new form. When we are given our books, actually, we see whatever we have done in a new form. Now, يَوْمَ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى. And the hell would appear, or is made to appear, for whoever can see it. Now, of course, not everyone can see it. The believers cannot see hell at that stage, or at any stage. The believers cannot see the hell because it's not in their existence. It's not inside them it's not part of their destiny that they have to see the hell. It's only part of destiny of some people that they would see the hell. Hell is actually the other aspect of what is inside them. They can see it. And it is a stage where hell and paradise can be seen. Although we believe that hell and paradise are already created, but they cannot be seen. They cannot be seen now. They cannot be seen in barzakh after we die. They cannot be seen at initial stages of Qiyamah. They can only be seen at certain point. وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The paradise will be brought close. Not the muttaqin would go to paradise. The paradise will be brought close. That means you come to a new stage where you can see that dimension. وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِلْغَاوِينَ. And the hell would be made apparent for the ghawin. So this idea, what is mentioned here, وَرَعَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ النَّارِ, is that final stage where people are being separated to hell or paradise. The mujrimun will see the fire now. And that fire, of course, is the product of what they have done themselves. Now, because it's product of what they have done themselves, they are now certain, فَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ مُوَاقِعُهَا. They are now certain that they will go into it. They will enter it. There is no choice for them. Here, God doesn't say that we take them to hell or we throw them into the hell. They now know that the course that they have come up to here and they are going forward, they are now sure that they are going to enter it. وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ مَوَاقِعُهَا وَلَمْ يَجِدُوا أَنْهَا مَصْرِفًا. They cannot find anything which would stop them. Now, neither their associates, nor anyone to do shafa'ah for them, nor anything that they can pay as a ransom, nothing. They are just driven towards it. Sometimes people say that we go to hell on our own accord, in the sense that, or go to paradise on our own accord, in the sense that we are driven by the urge of our inner being. And that urge is what we used to do or used to be in this world. It's only God who can save us going to hell and guide us to paradise. As we have in Surah A'raf, we discussed this. When the mu'minun come to the gates of paradise, they have not entered it yet. They say, قَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي هَدَانَا لَهَذَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَا اللَّهُ. We couldn't find this way except that God guided us to this place. Now, for some, God wouldn't guide them to this place, and that's the urge which takes them to hell. Sometimes we ask, how is it possible that people have this urge? Or, for example, they go to their own places in hell and paradise. They go to their own cities, because there are cities in hell, there are cities in paradise, for example. There are neighborhoods in hell, there are neighborhoods in paradise. They go and find their places with their own choice. How is it possible that people would do it, despite knowing that it's painful, despite knowing that it's bad, it's evil, in hell, for example? Or despite knowing that it's a lower level in paradise rather than a higher level in paradise? Now, it's exactly the same thing that we do in this world. We know that by running after the pleasures of this world, or running after the worldly things, we do not find peace, we do not find tranquility. We know that by being good, by being close to God, we can find peace of heart, we can find tranquility. Still, we have an urge to go after it. We ثم إنكم أيها الضالون المكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم فمالئون منها البطون فشاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الحيم. You will go and drink hot water like thirsty camels. This is very interesting, isn't it? We go and drink from this world like thirsty camels. We want it. And this would reappear to us someday. This like what says رأى المجرمون النار فظنوا أنهم مواقعوها ولم يجدوا عنها مصرفا ولقد صرفنا في هذا القرآن من كل مثل وكان الإنسان أكثر شيء جدلا. And certainly we have made this Quran interspersed with every kind of parable for mankind, but man is the most disputatious of creatures, or is always tries to dispute and find arguments for everything. Now, this, after mentioning these things about the Day of Judgment, mentioning that these are parables, you shouldn't think that it's like this, that there is a fire somewhere and you go close and you see it, then you are afraid of it, and then you have to walk towards it. Of course, there would be such things, but not the way you think in this world. These are parables I'm giving to you so that you understand what is going to happen. What is going to happen there is exponentially different in dimensions, in quality, in quantity, everything is different. These are just given to us as parables so that we understand what is awaiting man. I've mentioned this several times before, that if you want to describe this world for someone who never has seen such a huge expanse, for example, for a baby who is still in the womb of their mother, you cannot explain it because they don't have the concepts for it. Although they are human beings, although they have developed as human beings, for example, a very grown-up fetus, for example, 8 months old, they are a human being completely, but they have not developed concepts like color, for example, like love, like hate, like worship, like gratitude. They don't know anything of these things. So you cannot explain this world for them because they don't have the concepts. Now, that world also, we don't have the concepts yet. It is not formed for us. We actually create those concepts. Although concepts are formed for us after we die, we see higher realities of this world. So it is always like that. God gives us parables so that we understand. وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا. Sarrafna means we have changed from one parable to another parable, from one example to another example, saying one thing after another thing. We have brought all these things. لَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. Every type of parable I have given. However, human being is like this. Always likes to dispute, to argue, to bring jadal. Jadal is when you don't want to accept something, you produce an argument, although you know that argument doesn't hold, for example. وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. Now, why man is like this? Why communities are like this? Why they don't want to take heed? وَمَا مَنَعَ النَّاسِ أن يؤمنوا. This is a very, very deep concept given here in this verse number 55. وَمَا مَنَعَ النَّاسَ أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى ويستغفروا ربهم إلا أن تأتيهم سنة الأولين أو تأتيهم العذاب قبلا. What has prevented man from believing and seeking forgiveness from their Lord once guidance has come to them is nothing but the fact that they are being overtaken by the precedent of the previous nations. Or they want to confront the punishment face to face. يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. Now, what does this mean? We have, of course, destined that people should fulfill some time before they die. Nations should fulfill some time before they are perished. And this time, of course, no matter whatever they do, this time should be fulfilled for a human being, for a nation. Nations may be very, very despotic, may be very arrogant, may be oppressive, but we let them go. It doesn't matter. We have said, وَمَا مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا وَلَهَا كِتَابٌ مَعْلُومٌ. There has been no nation, no civilization, except there has been an appointed time for it. A kitab, something that we had written, this nation should go until that time. مَا تَسْبِقُ مِنْ أُمَّةٍ أَجَلَهَا وَمَا يَسْتَأْخِرُونَ. They cannot precede that appointed time. They cannot go beyond it. Now, when we have given them this appointed time, then they will fulfill whatever has been done to previous nations. They did oppressive things. They rejected the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what happened at the end? They were destroyed. The destruction, the evil destruction came to them. Not that they fulfilled the time and they went, the evil destruction came to them. Now, these people, this مَا مَنَعَ النَّاسِ, initially is referring to the people of Mecca, and then, of course, general to everyone. You know why they do not believe in you when guidance has come to them? Why they do not listen to the Quran? Because they want to fulfill the time exactly the same as what previous nations did. And we let them go. We let them go in a way that you think God is negligent, God is not seeing at all, or God is incapable of doing anything. We see lots of wrongdoing and zulm around us, and God is not doing anything. Or we see lots of misguidance, mischievous deeds done by individuals and communities. God is not doing anything. Is God sleeping? Is God negligent? Doesn't he know? Yes, of course. Is he not capable to stop it? Yes, of course, he's capable to stop it. But لَقَدْ سَبَقَتْ كَلِمَتُنَا. There is a word that has passed for every nation, every human being. They have to fulfill certain times, certain rizq, and all these things. And what prevents these people to believe in you is exactly what prevented the previous nations. They are greedy. They are immersed in the pleasures of this world. They do not want to take heed of admonitions, and then will come what happened to the previous nations. So, وَمَا مَنَعَ النَّاسَ أَن يُؤْمِنُوا. Nothing prevents them from believing. إِذْ جَاءَهُمُ الْهُدَى. When guidance has come. Nothing prevents them from asking forgiveness from their Lord. إِلَّا أَن تَأْتِيَهُمْ سُنَّةُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Unless that they want to fulfill their time the way the previous nations fulfilled their time, or if that is not the case, if we let them live and die naturally, then أَوْ يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. Or they see presently the adhab al-akhirah. يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ means adhab al-akhirah. Sunnatul awwali means the adhab in this world, the punishment in this world. يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. They see by their own eyes the punishment. Now, the previous verses, what they say that وَرَأَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ النَّارِ. The mujrimun, the guilty, saw the fire. These people are waiting to see with their own eyes. They would not desist before seeing with their own eyes what is going to happen to them. أَوْ يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. Now, why God doesn't do anything? Why this has happened? Why this destiny has been made like this? Why when the prophets come, God would not urge people to believe in them so that everyone prospers? وَمَا نُرْسِلُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ, the following verse. وَمَا نُرْسِلُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ. We never send messengers but to warn or to give good tidings to the believers, warn the disbelievers. That's all. They have no power. As Iblis has no power on people. It's only a call. Iblis just calls. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُم مِّن سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا, in Surah Ibrahim, on the Day of Judgment, Iblis is actually talking to people. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُم مِّن سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَن دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. I just called you, you came. I didn't force you. I didn't do anything. I didn't have any power to force you. إِلَّا أَن دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not blame me. Blame yourself. I didn't do anything. In the same way are the messengers. The messengers cannot force us to anything. They just call us. So we have call from two directions, an evil call and a benign and good call. And it's us who have to choose. And this has been our sunnah. This has been the way we have acted since the beginning of creation. So we do not urge anyone. If the nations are going that way, I'm not going to stop them. The messengers cannot stop them. And we have seen that historically, the messengers were mostly killed or deported or imprisoned because people didn't want them. So I let them do it. Messengers didn't have power. وَمَا نُرْسِلُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ وَيُجَادِلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِالْبَاطِلِ. And when the messengers come, what will happen? The kafirin, those who reject this message, this call, they argued with batil all the time. And arguing with batil made other people to listen to them. Again, it's somehow made the whole tension and attraction from both sides more extensive. The messengers give their argument, and the kuffar bring counter-argument. Like, for example, they ask the messengers, لَوْلَا تَأْتِينَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Why angels don't come to us? Why they come only to you? Many people are deceived by this argument, isn't it? Yes, they are true. Why the messengers only, God sent only angels to them? Are we not human beings? This is, for example, one of the batil argument. Or the other argument, they said, مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مثلنا. You are just human beings like us. So why should we follow human beings like us? ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم. The argument they gave against a prophet which Allah mentions coming after Nuh. قال الذين كفروا من قومه ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم يأكل مما تأكلون من. You see, very, very good argument. يأكل مما تأكلون من ويشرب مما تشربون. He eats the same thing you eat. He drinks the same thing you drink. So why the angels don't come to you? They come to him. Again, the arguments come. يجادل الذين كفروا بالباطل. Or, for example, why God should send a human being to us? لو شاء الله لأنزل ملائكة. لو شاء ربنا, in other words, لأنزل ملائكة. If Allah wanted to guide us, He would have sent an angel. Why a human being, for example? You see, these arguments. And nowadays, of course, we have other arguments against faith, isn't it? Well, it's all the Big Bang and evolution. There's nothing, as these sort of superstitious people say. Always the arguments come from both sides, and Allah allows it. Allah actually wants it to be like that. Do not think that Allah wants everyone to go to guidance even by force, even by, for example, urge from either their family, their friends, their society. No, Allah doesn't want this. Allah wants people to go towards guidance by their own will, listening to both sides, and then make their choice. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَمَعَهُمْ عَلَى الْهُدَى فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Do not be ignorant of what God has destined. Had Allah wished, He would have brought all of them to guidance. Who better than God can bring everyone to guidance? Sometimes we think that we have control over some people, for example, or we can give an argument which would convince everyone. Well, no, how can we do that? You never can do that. If it was possible, Allah would have given that argument to His prophets. or Allah would have given that argument to everyone in their nature. It's not possible. Allah wants this to go as it is. So, كذلك جعلنا لكل نبي عدوا من المجرمين. Always, when a prophet came, some enemy who had counter-argument from mujrimun was there as well. They gave arguments against the prophets, and people had to listen to both sides. وما نرسل المرسلين إلا مبشرين ومنذرين ويجادل الذين كفروا بالباطل ليدحضوا به الحق. To defeat حق. It has always been the case. واتخذوا آياتي وما أنذروا هزوا. They not only denied and rejected my signs and the arguments which warned them, not only they denied it, but they took it as sort of, they derided it, which is the worst type of denial, isn't it? When you deny something by argument, that's fine. But when you deride them or you mock them, ridicule them, look what they believe, what superstitions they believe, this is the worst type of denial. And this has always been the case. Whenever any prophet has come, they started to deride, to ridicule, and so you should not be worried. Of course, the prophet and us, you should not be worried. This has been a trend from the beginning of creation. You have to stand firm. Now, one very important thing. If we have all these derisions, mockery, arguments, counter-arguments against us, the faithful, and we stand firm, actually Allah tries and tests our faith with such things. Those who are swerving, those who are weak, they go. Let them go. I don't want them. I want the firm ones to come to me. So this is a test also for the believers as well, that you have to be firm on your faith. So firm that, as Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam said, if every single human being on the earth rejects and disbelieves, I am not hesitating for one moment. There is no hesitation, because so firm in faith. Usually, we human beings are like that, isn't it? We go with the crowd. We go with the numbers. That so many people believe in such a thing, so let us also. It should be right. No, that's not a proof. That's not a right sort of judgment that because so many people believe in something or reject something, it should be right. And the Quran always tells us, be careful of this fallacy, that because so many people believe in something or so many people like something, that thing would be good. And of course, the ideological democracy which we have today is unfortunately leading us towards this. We have two types of democracy, of course. A sort of instrumental democracy, which is just voting to manage the affairs of this society or politics. This doesn't mean that something is right or something is wrong, because majority of people have voted for someone. It doesn't mean that someone is good or that someone is right. But ideological democracy says that if majority of people want something, that thing should be right. Now, of course, the Quran tells us, be careful. This is not true. Majority of people may not be on the right path. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ فَأَعْرَضَ anha. So who's more wrongdoer, or who's more has more wronged himself? Man azlamu, who's the one who has wronged himself to the fullest way? وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ. Ayat Rabbi here may mean the Quran. We sent this Quran to these people. They are reminded of it. They have given all these arguments, and now they reject it. Who has wronged himself more than these people? من أظلم ممن ذكر بآيات ربه فأعرض عنها, turns away from it. Who is a greater wrongdoer than he who is reminded of the signs of his Lord, whereas he disregards them or turns away. Now, turns away or disregard means that without thinking about them, without pondering on them, rejects them offhand. This is i'rad. This is i'rad, turning away from ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is more wrong than someone who does like this? A message comes from the Lord, and instead of thinking, pondering, reflecting in it, they just reject it offhand. فَأَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا وَنَسِيَ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ, and they forget. Again, it means they disregard, they do not think about what they have done in this world. مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ means what they have sent their hands, literally, what their hands have sent forth. What they have done in the past, it has come to us, it's now in Barzakh in its own form, in Qiyamah in its own form. He disregards it. He doesn't care about what he has done. وَنَسِيَ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. إِنَّا. You know why these people are like that? Why they do not ponder and reflect in these verses? Why they do not think about what they have done or what they do? They do things without consideration. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً أَن يَفْقَهُوا. We have put seals on their hearts, lest they understand it. We don't want them to understand it. Why? Again, this is the general rule. The general rule, if you are evil, God doesn't want to give you his own address. He doesn't want you to go close to him. That is why we have made it like that. They have been evil before, and this, what they have sent forth with their hands, has made us to prevent them to understand these verses. So they turn away. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً أَن يَفْقَهُوهُ وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرًا. And there is a heaviness in their ears, as. So it means as it is there is a heaviness in their ears. Whatever you say, it is as if they do not hear. It's as if you have not said it at all. And وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرًا. And this being the case, وَإِن تَدْعُهُمْ إِلَى الْهُدَى فَلَنْ يَهْتَدُوا إِذًا أَبَدًا. This being the case, no matter how much you call them and invite them to guidance, they will never be guided. Now, there is one hadith in Misbah al-Sharia, which usually is explained in the wrong way. But I think we can make a use of that hadith to understand this very nicely. The hadith, this is the last hadith in Misbah al-Sharia. It says, al-ubudiyyah jawharatun kunhuha al-rububiyyah. And of course, it has a continuation. I don't want to go into the continuation of that. Ubudiyyah means to offer your servitude to God. This ubudiyyah is a gem, is a jewel. But the inside of it, the depth of it is rububiyyah, is the cherishing attribute of God, which cherishes everything. If you worship sincerely, actually God is cherishing you, is making you grow through that worship. God is doing it. You think that you are doing it. Of course, voluntarily we have to go to worship. But because God sees you apt, God sees you capable, and also deserving to be cherished towards him, and then he, by that worship, he cherishes you. If he sees that you have no worth at all, cherishing you in that way is not useful at all, then leaves you. He wouldn't cherish you. He wouldn't take you through that ubudiyyah. So, two things we learn from this hadith is very important. One is that only those who deserve to be guided through their actions. Not that God created some people to deserve and some not to deserve. Through their acts, through their intentions. Those who deserve, God takes them into ubudiyah. It is a rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's that aspect of sustaining everything. Now, the second thing is that whatever worship we do, we shouldn't feel arrogant and admire ourselves. It is God who is taking us. Of course, there is something in us. There is something good. There is some good intention. But it's God who's doing it to us. He is cherishing, sustaining us in that way. And therefore, if some people do not deserve it, God just leave them. وَأَنْ تَدْعُهُمْ إِلَى الْهُدَى فَلَنْ يَهْتَدُوا إِذًا أَبَدًا. Inshallah, the rest we continue next week. وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَيْهِ الطَّاهِرِينَ.
Thank you much indeed, Sheikh. We start with from 15-20 minutes for discussion further. Yeah, Doctor, take it up. At the bottom, red button at the bottom.
Assalamu alaikum. If the mu'minun, they don't see hell, what about in Surah Maryam? وَإِن مِّنكُمْ إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا.
Yeah, إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا, we go over hell, but we probably don't see don't see the fire, you see. We have this hadith that many people who go to paradise, they say, didn't we read in the Quran that إِن مِّنكُمْ إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا, all of you will come to hell? We didn't see hell. And then either the angels or some more knowledgeable people would tell them, جُزْنَا وَهِيَ خَامِدَةٌ. Yes, we passed over it, but it was quenched for us. You didn't see it, you see? So not everyone is capable to see that fire. Seeing that fire is terrifying. It's not something that, of course, maybe some people who go to paradise would see that as well. Those who are just falling from the Sirat, and God just keeps them going. The angels keep them going. But not everyone see that, because, as I said, that is in itself, just seeing it before entering it in itself is a punishment.
Any sisters? Anybody? Yeah, Muhammad. Take it up.
Sheikh, how do you distinguish between the parables, like, for example, your hands and feet will talk, the rivers of honey and all that, as opposed to other ayats where things are probably quite factual?
Everything, as Allama Tabatabai Rahmatullah says, everything mentioned about hereafter is parable. Everything. But it is said in a very factual way. It's parable because not that these things wouldn't happen. These things would happen. But it wouldn't happen the way we imagine in this world. It would be something different. If we want to describe it with the concepts that we know in this world, this is the way it happens, okay? But of course, there are concepts that we don't know yet. Just about these rivers, for example, of honey and these things. We have in hadith that these rivers of milk doesn't come from others of animals, or those honey don't come from, doesn't come from belly of the bees. God knows where these come from. What is that? So, and these things that we think factual, for example, they are told to call their associates, and they call them, for example, they do not answer them, or they see the fire of hell. They don't happen the way we think. This is this world, the expression of them. Of course, there's another expression. Not that they wouldn't happen, not that they are not physical, not that these things are not exchanged, but they all will happen at a different level of existence, which is yet unknown to us.
Thank you. Any sisters? Brothers? Sheikh, towards the end of the lecture, you concluded that Allah guides everybody gradually, and then when that person is more interested, then he's given more guidance. Now, when we look at our prophets and imams, perhaps presumably similar thing happened, but then when we look at the Prophet Isa, then he was given the book from the beginning. So how was he guided from the womb? Was it or what? From the womb?
Actually, put the prophets aside. Their story is different. Okay, their story is different, and if we compare ourselves to them, then we make things complicated. Let that be a different issue.
Yes. Okay, thanks, man.
Assalamu alaikum. You mentioned about I think you mentioned about punishment and things of that sort that we see. I'm trying to understand how the earthquake and things like that, how what's happened in Nepal recently, about God being just, and like you said that He's not, some people doing something, you say, well, how come God's not doing anything about it, yeah? So, and what about then we see about the earthquakes in Nepal, so many people dying, we say, well, how come God's not doing anything about it? Or
Do what? God should do what about it?
Stop the people having had the earthquake so that they wouldn't have died or something like that?
Why? He wants us to die. Why he should stop us dying? Huh? He wants us, isn't it? All of us would die. And all of us would die at different ages. Isn't it? Some die young, some die old. He has decreed initially who has to live at what age and die at what age. And now the earthquake you see is that because you see all these people die in the same place, you think that why God do that? Now, if you imagine about several 100,000 people are dying every day, isn't it? Around the world, several 100,000 people. Why God doesn't stop that? Actually, He wants it to be like that. Now, when we see these deaths happen in one place, then we think that God should stop it. Why should He stop it?
Okay. Any sisters? No? Anybody? No? Any sisters? Any brothers? Manju?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam.
You mentioned that when a person submits and he does the ibadah or he performs the act of ubudiyat, and then the God cherishes them and then increases his capacity to go further in that way. And if somebody is disobedient and rebels, then he stops him and ultimately even puts the seal on him, so he can't even listen to it. And then the human beings are asked to adopt the qualities of God. And we see that in the worldly matters also. So if somebody is responsive, you promote him and you encourage him, and he progresses in that way. If somebody is not listening, then you stop at a stage. So isn't this the fitra which God has put in the man? And the God is acting in the same way, and the man is acting in the same way. So can you explain this phenomenon,
Well,
how
actually,
it works in the world and
what
how
happens?
the God works?
No, what happens? We learn from the way God has created people. We learn that you, for example, admonish or advise up to a certain extent. If that, for example, that is fulfilled and it goes beyond it, you see it's futile. You don't do it. We learn this. Initially, we don't know. But after learning this, we know that this has been the method of God as well. The Sunnah, what has been like this. Warns up to a certain point. And then if people don't want to listen, leaves them. We learn how the creation of man is actually. And by learning that, even those who do not believe in God would do the same thing because they learn it. Not that we assume the qualities of God in this. We learn this is the way, and then we see that when we see it's futile, for example, after a certain point, then we don't do it anymore.
Thank you. Any other sisters? Any brother? Riyadh? No? Sheikh, 2 weeks ago in our last lecture, we discussed about the arguments about whether the jinn was, whether Iblis was from jinn or from angels. The argument seems still be going on. What is the strongest argument? That was it from jinn or from angels?
You mean what argument we prefer?
No. What is the truth? Not a question of preference.
The truth, inshallah, we'll realize when we see Iblis
So
in
there
the
is-
next world. We realize that.
So it means that they will still go on then.
Yeah, I mean, certain things we may not, we not have to know the truth about them. I mean, it's not very important. We just listen to both arguments, even if we don't have any preference. We say, okay, some people say this, some people say that.
Okay, thanks. Sisters? Brothers? What? Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, following up my previous question. I don't know whether this hadith is true, but they say at the time of death, one will be humiliated. They'll be punished, they'll be feeling thirsty, etc. I understand, you feel thirsty, and even if you drink all the seas of the water, you still remain thirsty. But humiliation, you are humiliated because there are people around you. But if you're on your own, how can you be humiliated?
What, at the time of death, you will be humiliated?
Yeah, if you have committed certain sins.
No, that humiliation isn't for this world, of course. Of course, not everyone is humiliated at the moment of death. Some people are honored. Some people are ennobled, for example. Some people are received by angels who respect them greatly and greet them. Humiliation is for the disbelievers. And that's not something of this world. That's something that they see and visits them from the world of Barzakh. That humiliation is there. However, here, even some guilty may die with honor. And some mu'minun, one may think that they die in humiliation. That's not something important. What is important is honor and humiliation on the other side.
Thank you. Sisters?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I think you might have already addressed this, but I might have misunderstood. You mentioned that when we go towards God, Allah pulls us even further towards Him. And when we sin, then Allah places that seal over our hearts in the sense that He stops guiding us. Why is it that Allah stops guiding us? Does that ever stop?
You see, we say things in a sort of very simple language. When we put the verses together, we realize that it is actually working from the other way. God doesn't stop guiding. We stop receiving the guidance. And when God says we have put seals on their hearts, means that the sins which Allah has actually made to pollute the heart, this is His creation. Sin would pollute the heart. And He advises us not to sin so that the heart is not polluted. Now, the sin which pollutes the heart, and if it grows to an extent which covers the heart completely, is of course a metaphorical language, then they stop us from receiving guidance. And God says that we do not guide them anymore. In a threatening language, of course. But the actuality, when we put all these verses and traditions together, is that we understand that we stop receiving that guidance. We can say God stops guiding us, or we stop receiving that guidance, because God's guidance is pervasive for everything and everyone. الذي خلق قدر فهدى. He has measured, created, and guided. He guides everything and everyone. On the moment when we completely seal our hearts by sin, then we stop receiving that guidance. It's impossible anymore.
Thank you. Yeah?
Assalamu alaikum. Just to follow on from that, so you said that people will stop people aren't guided anymore if they start singing, it's sinning. And an example you gave in your previous lectures, I think, is about homosexuals. Now, I've met some homosexuals who claim to be Muslim. They're very religious, but they're gay. So how has God stopped guiding them if they're still religious?
Malik Salman of Saudi also claims to be a Muslim. Look, in the month of Haram, he is killing all those Muslims. Do you call him Muslim? I mean, it's not just a claim. You have to show by your action that you are Muslim, you submit to God. If you say, I submit to God, but I do disregard whatever he says, that's not submission to God. I don't remember that example in that relation anyhow, but the point is, it's not a point of claiming that one is religious or Muslim. Actually, believing in part of faith and rejecting other parts of it is the shirk that Allah says He will never forgive. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ. Allah would never forgive if someone commits shirk. There are two aspects for shirk. One is worshipping idols. The other aspect of shirk is that you believe in some part and other parts you say, no, I do not want to follow this because I think what I believe is better. Then this is another type of shirk. So we shouldn't listen, even in our own judgment of our own selves. We shouldn't just think that because we claim we are Muslims, we are really truly Muslims. We have to see whether we are meeting the criteria for being a real submitted person.
Thank you. One more, anybody? Manju?
The example you gave, the last answer, that even within us we should question and say that whether we are committing shirk or not when we are disobedient in that sense. The disobedience, if we put it in two ways. One is the disobedience, we know that what we are doing is wrong. The act is wrong, but we are not challenging and saying that this amr or this hukam of Allah is wrong. That is one part.
Yeah.
And the other one is that we agree that the amr of or the order of Allah or whatever instructions are there is right, but I am committing a sin. So if somebody comes to that stage that he accepts, but he does not follow it in action, knowing that he is doing wrong, will that also take him to the extent of shirk in that sense?
You see, once you believe that this command of God is right, okay, but you don't follow it because of the urge of, for example, the desire or something like that. This is a sin, okay, and this may be forgiven by repentance or whatever. Or even without repentance, God is merciful, He may forgive. But once you say, yes, this is the command of God, but it's not right, this is shirk. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarification. And I think inshallah we meet next
Next
Sunday.
week, inshallah.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu.